What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Inside Lines Podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with attorney and NIL consultant, Lachauna Edwards. But before we get into all of that, Tia, how is it going?
It's going good. I feel like I always say, the last week has been a good little whirlwind. Kids finally went back to school. Are your kids back in school?
No. Well, Mia starts on Monday. Yeah, and I still have my college kid. He's here for a couple more weeks, so.
Yeah, so Zay didn't go back to school till Wednesday, but Xander went back on Tuesday. And even though they're super independent, they'll go do their own thing, it's still Mom, so what we eating? Oh, okay, what's on the schedule today? And it's just more of a mental load than than I would like. Well, than I liked. But things are good though. Back in the swing of things, basketball, and the whole nine. Yeah. How was your week?
Life is good for me. I can't complain. I have no basketball, so I'm not in the gyms.
Is Nehemiah not playing this year?
He is not playing. He said he wanted to focus on football, and I was like, yes, sir. I respect it, and thank you for my time back. So I'm grateful for that.
I didn't realize he wasn't going to play. Well, that's good, though.
He decided it was kind of a last-minute decision for him, and he really waited, and he just remembered, going into his senior year of football, he had sustained a ankle injury towards the end of basketball, and it really set him back. And he did not want to go through that again. And he understood that there was no point because basketball is really, he plays and he's great, but it's not what he ultimately wants to do. So he just said, I just want to focus on football, put my all, rehab this ankle to 100% because he's been playing on it all season and it has not been 100%. So I respected it. I told him, listen, say less, son. If that's what you want to do, I support you 100%. Thank you for my time. And that was that. Yeah. So he's doing that and just been hanging with the kids. It's been nice to just sit back. I'm kind of out of the stage that you are in. Mine are pretty self-sufficient and I can just hang with them and have a good time. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm excited to get to that stage. I just had this conversation with a mom yesterday at the game because her son is a 2-sport, 3-sport athlete. But she was asking, like, at what point should you, well, she said force them to choose one. And I was like, well, you don't force them to choose. Just let it, naturally play out and they'll make the decision at some point that, okay, this is the one I want to look at. So that's interesting. Has he started college visits yet?
Yeah, we went to UConn and now we're headed to Nevada. So we're going to see what happens there. I kind of have a feeling he's going to want to go. He's been having so much fun with his brother. I have a feeling he's going to lean that way, but you never know. You never know. Yeah, so we're just going to wait and see what happens.
Oh, was good. Okay. Well, you have to keep us posted.
I will definitely keep you posted. Speaking of sports, though, let's get into our Women in Sports segment.
Yes, ladies. Okay, so this week in Women in Sports, we are sticking with women's college basketball. So if you have been tapped in any fit form or fashion to women's sports, you know that these ladies have been killing it. First, I want to talk about UNC basketball player Alyssa Utsby. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But she's the first player in UNC women's basketball history to get a triple-double against Utah, which I was like, we talking about the Tar Heels now, but she is killing it. And then let's talk about Caitlin Clark. So have you seen just all the hype around, is she the greatest women's basketball player ever and all the things?
Yes. Listen, when she hit that buzzer beater, everybody went crazy. That's what it was.
But it's interesting. So I don't know if you saw these stats, but in 15 games this year, she has scored 450 plus points, 100 plus rebounds, and 100 plus assists. And the only other player in the last 25 years in the NBA, WNBA, or Division I men's and women's basketball to ever achieve that feat, LeBron James.
Let me tell you something about Caitlin.
Look.
Okay. Everybody is really into these NIL deals and they traveling here and they doing this and they doing that. Caitlin is like Kobe. She was in the gym. You ain't heard from her.
time.
You have not seen what she's done. She's been in the gym. She's been focused. And this is why she's doing what she's doing now. Her focus is basketball, and it shows. So I'm just like big ups to her. She's killing it, and I'm proud. It's been great to watch her. She's really fun to watch.
I want to see if I can catch one of her games. I know they are selling out all over. I want to see if I can catch one of her games before she graduates. But that's it for women in sports, y'all. Check out these ladies.
All right, y'all. Now it's time to get into our interview with Lachauna Edwards. On the show today, we have an amazing woman who is an influential attorney and an advocate for athletes' rights. She is an author who created an ebook and workshop series called Parents Playbook on NIL. She is also a passionate sports mom herself, and she was featured in digital magazines such as Voyage ATL and Shout Out Atlanta. Please welcome to the show, Lachauna Edwards. How are you?
Hello. I am well. Thank you. Love the intro.
Thanks for coming on. We are so excited to have you. This is near and dear to both Tia and I, as we are mothers of athletes, students, all of the above, and we want to learn. So let's get right into it. I want to talk about, how did you decide to become a lawyer, and how did becoming a lawyer for athletes' rights come about?
Oh my gosh. So I literally have said I wanted to be an attorney since I was a little girl. I know many people are like, that's not, I said I was going to do something when I was little and I'm not doing that. I literally have always said I was going to be an attorney. And I honestly can't say exactly why, but God made me a woman who is a fierce fighter for justice and rights and making sure people are done right, and that they know their rights. And I've just always been that way. I think also because I am the oldest. And so you're always just fiercely protective. You're just fiercely protective.
Big sis.
And so I've always just had that sort of passion beside me. Yes, I'm big sis of a big crew of us. It's 7 altogether. So I've always been very passionate. And I've been around sports my whole life. My dad was a varsity women's basketball coach. My brothers played, my sisters played. I played basketball in 7th grade because of my dad. And then I also ran track in 8th grade, but I was a cheerleader at heart. So I went on to become a cheerleader. But I just grew up around sports my whole life. My husband played ball. My son plays ball. My daughters will probably do gymnastics. That's what we're into right now. They're only 4 though. But I've just always have loved sports, and it just kind of coupled together with who I am and my passion, and especially for my people. I have a civil rights background, and so making sure that we are educated, that we are empowered, that we are making informed decisions is literally through my blood. I don't know how to be any other way.
Okay, so before we get into and dive into the NIL stuff, can you talk a little bit about your educational journey, right? Like you said, you are one of the few people that said, "Oh, I want to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever," and actually stuck with it. But how was that journey? And did you come to any point where you were like, okay, never mind, I don't even know if this is really right for me at any point?
So I went to Clark Atlanta University for undergrad. So I'm an HBCU grad, and I always wanted to move to Atlanta since we were young. I know you're like, you sound so fake right now, but I literally, when we...
But where are you from?
I'm from Ohio originally. I'm from Cincinnati. Well, I grew up in Cincinnati, but I was born in Canton, Ohio. And so I would tell my family when we would drive down to Florida to go to Daytona Beach. And we would stop at a great aunt's house here in Atlanta. And I fell in love with the city. I honestly loved how successful Black people were doing in this city, and it attracted me as a young girl. And so I always said I was going to go off to school. I was going to go to either Spelman or Clark Atlanta, and I was going to Atlanta, and I went to Clark Atlanta. And so from there, I just matriculated. That's a HBCU word. They loved you. But I just went there. I graduated from there, and I said that I was going to go to law school from the jump. I actually took the LSAT a couple times because I did not take it seriously enough. So anybody who's interested in going to law school, take the LSAT seriously. But so I took it a few times, and then
What you mean you ain't take it seriously?
I did a course. There's prep courses and studying for it.
Yeah.
I was still trying to do, I was 21. So I was still trying to kick it instead of really buckling down, making sure I did all of the questions and things like that to do very well on it as much as I thought that I should have. I did okay on it. But I actually graduated at the height of the pandemic. I mean, what? Lord, messing up my words. Not pandemic, the recession in 2008.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I couldn't find a job initially. And so I actually ended up having to go home, and I went back to Cincinnati for 6 or 7 months. And I actually worked at a public school with my mom. She was in their front office, and I did some a teacher assistant paraprofessional, but I was still wanting to go to law school. So I ended up applying part-time to go back to Atlanta and work at the same time at a school called Atlanta's John Marshall Law School. And so I went there, and I ended up working for the first year or two while I was in law school, got laid off, shifted to full-time, and then just finished off my, law school career from there, took the bar right after, got serious that time, and I passed it on the first time.
I know that's right.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's so interesting, and it's actually very inspirational that you knew from such a young age what you wanted to do. It's like everything you said that you wanted to do, you went after it, you spoke it into existence, and here you are living your dream and still enjoying what you do. When you passed the bar, and did you know right away what type of law you wanted to go into, or did this take a while to decide?
So yes, I knew that I wanted to work within education and civil rights. I had actually did an internship with the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, and I wanted to be an advocate in that space. I would say while I was in law school, I wasn't sure initially, but then when I went off and worked at that public school with my mom, I was like, oh no, I've got to impact the public school system. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was like, I can't work with the kids, but I can work for y'all. I was like,
I know that's right though. That's right.
Somebody got to do something, but I can't be in the classroom with y'all.
but every position matter, right? Because somebody got to be doing it.
Exactly. It's a gift and a calling that the Lord didn't put on me. I love them though.
I love that. Well, you're still working with kids on the other side,
exactly.
Right? You're advocating for kids. Sounds like you were advocating on the educational side, and then you kind of moved into the athletic side of things. Can you tell everybody what NIL means and how you got involved with it?
Yeah. So NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And the way that I describe it in kind of layman terms, I say think of it as somewhat like social media influencers. It's using your name or your athlete's name, their image, their likeness to influence people, whether it's selling a product, selling your own product, services, or just influencing people in some shape or form using your NIL, your name, image, and likeness, and making money from it.
That part.
Okay, so let's talk about just you diving into the NIL space, right? Yes, you've been an advocate all this time, right? And to your point with these kids, but what made you say, okay, well, actually, I want to. This is my niche. This is where I want my impact to be.
Yeah. So I had started building a personal brand on social media, talking about marriage and family, in the height of the pandemic, and I basically kind of grew this own personal brand where I understood that creator side, how to get brand partnerships, what to look for in contracts. Creating content, because that in itself is a job. I got a PhD in that now, basically. And when the Supreme Court ruled that athletes could now monetize their NIL, I immediately, because I've been from jump a justice fighter of this. I've always felt strongly that it was so unjust that the NCAA could ever prevent them from making money from their NIL.
Right.
And there was the Ohio State case back in the day that I was just up in arms like, this is so So immediately.
Okay, well, tell people about that case, because
for those who don't, I can't remember the exact year. I actually shared in my trainings when I'm talking to parents and athletes, but there's a player by the name Braxton Miller and a coach named Jim Tressel, and my family's big Ohio State fans, just to give that precursor.
Let me tell you, this is a Purdue household over here, okay?
You know, my cousin went to Purdue, household. So I give you that one.
We don't want no beef, y'all. We don't want no beef.
But we are big Ohio State fans, and so we followed the story, of course. But Braxton Miller and a couple other players went to a tattoo shop, and I believe they signed some autographs, sold a couple of their own items in exchange for some tattoos. Apparently, they say that Coach Jim Tressel knew about it, tried to hide it. It came out, and as a result, Braxton Miller was suspended, and Jim Tressel was asked to resign. And he had been a winning coach for many years, was a big part of the Ohio State football program and its success. And they both went on to try to go to the NFL. And I think there were some issues once they went to the NFL. They were trying to hold the suspension. But I just thought it was utterly ridiculous that you are telling these grown men that they can't use the name that their mama gave them, their daddy gave them, to sell their own items. Like it almost felt like slavery. Like you don't own yourself while you're playing ball for a college program. And I thought that was always incredibly unjust. And so when they allowed it, I'm like, oh God, you are aligning everything about me all together with this. But I don't want to just make money and say, oh, I want to be an agent or whatever. I want to empower people, because I've learned from the social media side, you can do this, or parents, in my case, you can help your athlete do this. You guys can be empowered and rock this together. It's not as hard as it seems. And so it was just aligning everything that God had taught me or brought me through over there, that I learned over the years, just all coming together as one. Not to mention I'm a sports mom. So I'm already thinking forward about, okay, once my son reaches that level, I need to make sure I'm educated and equipped and all of that. So I just went like head first.
Did you, talk about how your firm catered to NIL, the entire landscape for parents. What did you decide to do differently in your firm?
So I am helping with reviewing contracts. I help with setting up the business entities, filing for trademarks, so protecting and owning their name, image, and likeness as far as copywriting work. The one thing that I am shifting to in 2024 is actually putting together a course where I'm literally walking, I say sports moms, but some of the dads got up in arms, but so I try to say sports parents now. But walking them from the beginning of, what is NIL? How do you remain compliant? What do you need to know? To what do you need to do to operate ethically as a manager? How to pitch to brands? How to create those? How to build a brand for your student athlete, creating content, as well as walking through contracts and helping them understand the terms, the red flags. How do you negotiate, and how do you really turn this from just my student athlete plays ball and they have a social media following to building a real business with different arms and opportunities out of it. I like to think of it more from the influencer side of saying, what creative ways can we help you, who you've built this persona, you are the business. How do we build these different opportunities? So is that speaking engagements? Is that selling merch? Is that creating a subscription? Is it doing coaching and training one-on-one or in group when you go back home for the, break or whatever the case may be, but just really thinking how do we build this into a whole business, because the athlete is the business at that point.
The business. That's right.
And what challenges and stuff have you been seeing from the parents and students trying to actually execute their NIL rights?
So I've had a lot of different calls with people.
If y'all ain't watching, that was an eye roll.
I actually did not mean it. I looked at myself like, why did you do that?
No, it's fine. It's fine,
I try not to talk on my face. So I've talked with parents at different levels of this. So there are some parents that are in the early stages. They maybe have an athlete. Like my son is 9. He does have a social media page, but me and my husband run it. He does not get on Instagram at all, but we share his highlights and things like that. So there are parents who are like, I just want to know how to start building my brand for my student athlete. We want to share things. And so I'll talk to them about social media content and get them to understand that that's a big part of it, is kind of having a social media presence. But then I have parents who have also signed deals with big agencies, and I'm talking some powerhouse in, the world, agency world, and they're not doing anything for the athlete. It's almost as if I'm saying it just for legal purposes, almost as if they are just holding on to the athlete until they reach that pro level. So mom is kind of like, why aren't we trying to do different things? Why? They don't even know who he is off the field. They don't know anything about him. Of course, you can't land deals because you don't even know what he likes, and you're not giving us any sort of strategy. And I'm trying to, work with her. They're about, then that individual case, they're about to be out of their term of their contract is for a year, and it's an exclusive agreement, so they can't work with anybody else. But trying to help them navigate once they're out of that. Let's start thinking forward about building that brand and finding different opportunities for him, because at this point they thought going with the large agency was the catch, and
the name caught them.
They caught more before they actually worked with that particular agency.
Wow. Y'all heard that, right? It's not always about the large agency. I'd love to talk about, and I don't think people talk about it enough. There's the pitfalls that happen as parents, whether it's with your kids on social media, or, like you said, dealing with these different agencies. What are the common pitfalls that you find yourself in front of that you have to step in and be an advocate for these kids and their families?
So one of the things that a lot of the athletes are doing is signing deals without actually having someone review the contract. And they are giving away like their rights in perpetuity. And just to explain for the listeners, perpetuity means that whoever you sign the agreement with has the right to use your content, their name, their image, whatever it is that they agree to forever. And I've been really trying to get them to understand.
People are doing that? Our kids are doing that now?
Yeah.
But they didn't read that.
And they didn't read it. And they don't even
contract,
understand
but they didn't read the fine print.
Yeah. So I've been really trying to get them to understand the terms of the contracts that they are signing, because it sounds good. Like, oh yeah, let's get $2,500 for, to talk about whatever product today. And then you go pro and your name is now worth 6 figures or more. And that company is still running ads or doing now, or they're pulling it out the vault now that you're on ESPN, front pages, and now they're making money off of your name. And all you got was $500, $600 back when you were a sophomore in college. And so I really try to get people to understand, as an attorney, and especially as someone who works with intellectual property and really pushing ownership, is to think of yourself as big now. Don't sign things on the front end thinking like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm, maybe little or nobody. Approach like I said, you are the business. The athlete is the business. Approach this with the mind frame or the mindset that my name, my business idea, whatever it's going to be, is going to be big one day. If 5 years from now, would I be comfortable making $500 and giving them access forever? Probably not. So that's one pitfall. Another pitfall is just kind of them not, this is a big one. It's not big as far as legally, but it's widespread across, I don't know if they're Gen Z or Alpha. I don't know how Alpha goes all the way, but
one of those. When
they come in, yeah.
They keep archiving the posts on their social media profiles, which means that, let's say they had, 25 posts, and they'll go and remove 22 of those, and now they only have 3 on there. For whatever reason, their generation thinks that they look cool. It makes them look cool to have less photos. But I keep trying to explain that when you're trying to market yourself, you are hurting your marketability. If a marketing company, a brand comes to your page and it doesn't look like you're even using it, you have 3 photos and we don't even know anything about you. I'm saying you want to approach this, I say, as if your social media is your resume, your portfolio. Start putting yourself, tell your story. And that translates even to the recruiting side. Tell your story. You have a chance to own what people know and learn about you, use that to your advantage.
That's good. So,
That's great.
okay. And I'm thinking about this from a professional athlete side, but you really have this a lot, or at least I've been seeing it this last year. Okay. But so not everybody is going to make it professionally following college, or even they're not maybe not make it through college after high school. Right. Have you been seeing some of like the inflated ego that comes along with these children trying to build their brand, or them having some success like on the court or the field or whatever, and like how that's playing out with their experience or their athletic journey?
I haven't personally seen it, but I know it exists. And I think that that's a huge part of the conversation that needs to be had. I guess I kind of somewhat have had conversations with people who are looking for like NIL packages from the collectives. And I can break that down if you want me to for listener. Some people, so an NIL collective is, that sort of booster club. They either are pulling money together from fans and alumni or businesses to, for lack of a better word, coerce the athletes. Let's just be real. Coerce the athletes to come to that particular institution. And of course, if you're a 5-star athlete, then you may get 6 figures or more, millions of dollars to come to that school potentially. But if, let's say, you are not a 5-star athlete, or maybe you don't go to a school that supports, unfortunately, let's say sometimes the women's programs, they may not be offering in, collective packages to athletes. Now, again, I have not seen it personally in my experience, but it's kind of understanding the value that you bring as well too. Everybody's not going to get those offers. And I'm not going to say that I love that that's the process that's happening. It's been happening forever, right? But, in terms of speaking equitably, it is hurting women's sports, right? You're going to give a 7-figure deal to the football star, but the women's basketball player is not getting anything like that. And so not necessarily that it's an ego thing in her case, but it becomes where it's not being equitably distributed amongst athletes within the same program, or even the women's sports versus the men's sports, or just, the lower tier sports that may not be generating as much money. So there's all kind of issues with NIL right now that, everybody is just like, they call it the Wild Wild West. I hate to use that phrase because everybody's using, but there's no real structure to it. And so you're going to have those who are like, I expect to get this amount of dollars, and maybe inflating their value, or maybe that I should get something, but I'm not getting nothing because I don't play for the football program.
Okay. You talk a lot about the 4-point protection plan in your content. Can you break that down to moms? Because I know that there are people that would love to understand more of what you do and how they can reach out to you and learn more. Tell us about the 4-point protection plan.
So in my 4-point protection plan, that's what I tell parents. I say you should have a 4-point protection plan. So one of that, the first one is a business entity established for your student athlete. The biggest thing that I say is when you're signing deals with anybody, whether it's to sell your own merch or to actually just promote their product, it is a business to business transaction. You are not signing an agreement with Joe Schmo on the other side of the email. It is whatever company that you are agreeing to work with. So you should be protected the way that they are protecting themselves. So you need to have a business entity established. I usually generally say an LLC. There are different routes that you can go based on your state or whatever your personal circumstances is. So that's where you explore what are the legal, ramifications around what you all or your student athlete is creating. Number 2 is having an intellectual property plan. So that means trademarking any names, slogans, logos, whatever you need to protect for your student athlete. And I use the phrase, if you don't protect their name, others are going to profit off of their fame. So if you have a catchphrase, if you have a look, you have a logo or whatever, they need to be protecting that, as well as their art. So there's some athletes that are making money from selling their art, their music. They need to have copyrights to protect that. Number 3 is to have a financial plan or tax, some sort of a plan to make sure that you are protecting the money that's coming in as well as protecting yourself from any issues with the IRS. There are athletes that are getting big money and they haven't even thought through about what they're going to do when the tax time comes around. And that can also translate for some athletes if they're not on in full scholarship for their sport. If you have an academic or a needs-based scholarship, the money they get from NIL could potentially change that because it's now based on your income. And if the income changes, then your academic or whatever possibly needs-based scholarship could be impacted by that. And then lastly,
have you been seeing the schools provide like some sort of financial guidance or instruction? Her facial expression. No. Okay.
There are some schools that are trying to get education out there. My gripe with it is how many of us at 20 and 21 were really trying to sit and understand about contracts and stuff like that. And I can speak for myself. I got all kind of student loan debt that I ain't got no business having because I was first generation college signing these, contracts, not really fully understanding. My parents only knew so much. But they're not even really inviting parents into the conversation. It's like, yeah, we sat down with the 20-year-old who really don't even understand what we're talking about. And I'm not saying that the student athletes shouldn't be educated, but my personal opinion is the adults, there are adults too, but the parents who are more at least equipped to understand the gravity of a contract, of the different things that this actually can have issues that trickle down into should be in the conversation. And so that's why I'm very big on making sure the parents, because everybody is saying the parents need to get educated. The parents need to do this. Parents need to do that. These athletes are doing this and that. And I'm like, well, when are y'all going to actually give them what they need? You keep saying what they need to do, but who's actually trying to meet them and say, come in, I have this opportunity for you to get educated, for you to learn. And so, I mean, that's the gap, my personal opinion, that's the gap in industry that I'm trying to fill. And so, there are some schools that are trying to, get the athletes educated on NIL, and they have I think some of the collectives have, financial education and things like that. But my personal opinion is that the family should be trying to get educated all at the same time, because for many of them, they're not really soaking in the information like they need to.
Do you think, which a few people have mentioned this in general, but do you think, to your point, at the young, ripe age of 16, 17, 20, 21 years old, that these athletes or these students, these young adults should even have access to the type of money that we've been hearing thrown around for these NIL deals? Like, should the money go into a trust or something for them to tap in at 25, 30, like when they have a little more knowledge, a little more life experience and can make a wiser decision? So
I, of course, speak from probably a biased point of view because I am a parent that's well educated and big on education and obviously I'm an attorney, so I understand a little bit more. But I feel like that should be a family decision and not one that's made from people outside of the family. I do think it is wise to put it in a trust or put it somewhere that's protected. And it should be thinking about when you hang up your cleats, when you're not on the gymnast beam, when you are done with this, it's coming to an end at some point, whether it's 10 years from now or 2 years from now, it's going to come to an end. You need to have something to stand on. You need to have built something that you can keep going with relationships, money, whatnot. But to specifically have like an across the board, like nobody can touch this money, it has to go. I'm not personally a fan because everybody's family situation is not the same. And so like for me and my family, we would be making sure my son is making the right decisions. And so I wouldn't want you telling my family what we're going to do to help my son. And he could very well be someone who, like I have talked to an athlete, he's interested in real estate. So if you lock his money up, he can't invest his money right now. So there are some families. Now, he also came from a family that's well educated as well, too. So there are some families who are going to make the right decisions. It's just not all of them will, right?
And that's the part. That's what I'm more concerned with, right? Because even so, to your point, I don't think all of their money, because some of them need the money to actually live.
Right.
When I think about athletes when I was in school, like some of them like did not come from a solid family background, and some of them were like barely making through, even being on full scholarship, right? Because you have expenses outside of that. And so, yes, to your point, like I don't think necessarily maybe all of it, but I also think about even professional athletes who come from families where they are the success story, and everybody's like, we supported you, we did this, that, and the third. You owe me, you owe me, you owe me, and now like they're not having to deal with that pressure at 21, 22 when they go professional. They're dealing with it sooner, high school, college, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
I think about what you're saying, Tia, and I completely understand what you're saying. And I think about it from a different perspective, which is on the side of entertainer.
Yeah.
So for instance, my daughter, she's on the entertaining side, and she has, when she gets her money, it goes into an account and no one's allowed to touch it. And it's probably because she is underage, right? And they've had some issues in the past with parents, funneling money or taking money out of their children's accounts, so on and so forth. So now they have these UTMAs where the money goes in there and it protects the child. It would be interesting, though, to see how you could really do that in the lens of these are adults.
Yeah.
Now, if they're underage, 100%. But then when they become 18, how do you regulate that? Because to your point, Lachana, I know they are adults and they might have well-off parents. So how do you kind of, rule in the favor of this for some people and some not? But like when you find out about 17-year-olds that are going to a top 5 university to play football or basketball, and they've gotten this money, if they're underage, they somehow should be protected. It's just figuring out what that looks like until they are of age. Yeah. And just there should be some type of education courses that they maybe should be required to take before they start sticking their hands in the pot. I don't know, but that's a great question, because as soon as you said that, I started thinking about, my daughter, like, wow, that's probably why they have that. And to stop stuff like that from happening.
So I will say there are a lot of states, those who do have NIL laws, do have a requirement where the athlete has to take some sort of financial course or financial education, a certain amount of hours.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, I know Georgia does have where the athlete has to have some set amount of hours, but not all states have an NIL law. That's why people are lobbying. Granted, I don't know how effective that would be either, but for the federal government to create something so we can have some structure around this, because there's no structure right now. And so everybody's just like winging it.
It's so new. It's so fresh.
Yeah, everybody is winging it. And you have people who are coming in to take advantage. You have people who are just finding the loopholes. And, some people are unfortunately getting the short end of the stick, and others are winning, so we just need some structure around it.
What would you say to a mom that, to your point, maybe she is struggling, she has this son that has this money, and we all hear about it, we talk about it, even in the league, Tia and I have talked about it. He gets all this money to go to this university, and she wants a house, or she wants the car, or the dad wants the this or the that. And you have this young son who, even though you're an adult by the number, being 18, your parents are still your parents. So there's a pressure there. What would you say on both sides, to that mom or dad, or into that child? No pressure, girl.
Can I come from the mom perspective versus from mom perspective? I just feel like we are not entitled to the things that our kids achieve. It is a gift that we would love, like if you have an opportunity to bless mom, dad, go forward. Right. But entitled, I just don't personally agree with that thought process. It's a blessing. And it's not we got you. Right. And don't get me wrong. I talk about the sacrifices. We all know we are at fields, and we at, our whole pretty much 20s, 30s, 40s is at fields and practices.
Right.
We've given up our weekends and evenings. So there is that level of like, I got you here, essentially, right? But I don't believe it should come from an entitlement. It should come from a perspective of I am your parent, and it was kind of my obligation to get you to be the best person and to use all the gifts that God has given you. And how you choose, I like to think that if you've poured into that child and you've raised them well, and you've been a part of their life, that they're naturally going to want to say, let me give back to you. But there should be limitations to that. And that is why actually I'm teaching parents to manage, but I have in like my course, we're going to be having a contract where you all are specifically saying these are the duties and this is the percentage. If you whatever you all their athlete chooses, like, is it 5%? Is it? I think Kris Jenner does 10% of her kids' deals, which is lower than most agents. They do about 20%, or maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 2%, maybe it's nothing. However you guys decide, but it's in black and white about what your role is. And now it becomes, we're a team and I'm earning money because I'm working versus just, I got my hand out. I'm personally not a big fan of got my hand out. And so,
but I like that because it moves it from an emotional situation to a business situation. Like, this is what we agree. This is your role and how you show up here. And outside of this space, then you are mom. And you know, and I don't owe that to you. Exactly. I want to ask this question before we get into the game, unless Toy, you got another question too. But I want to know, so you are a sports mom and you are working with these athletes and stuff. So you have visibility to a lot of different things that go on emotionally, mentally, and things like that with these athletes. How do you as a sports mom balance your professional expertise with the emotional aspects of being emotional aspects of supporting your child through their sports journey?
So
I mean, I know your babies are young, but you are seeing a lot with these collegiate athletes and high school athletes and stuff like that.
I actually have very candid conversations with my son right now, and me and my husband, and we were literally, I keep saying literally. And
no, you're fine.
Just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was talking with my son and we were talking about the comments that people make on social media about athletes. Even though, we know this is the world we live in. Everybody's got an opinion, but people say such cruel things. And the more I get into the business, the more empathetic I feel when it's like, oh, they need to be fired. They need to be benched. They need it. And I'm like, that's somebody's livelihood. Or, there was, an athlete, I don't like to try to use names. There's an athlete who was shown jumping into the crowd, being consoled by his mom after he lost the big game. And I talked about that and I said, that's his support system. That is, that's rock. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, he's call him all kind of names because he was crying. I'm like, that's passion. And there were just there's a lot of people that have so many opinions about athletes who ain't never been one or ain't never been played at a perform at that level. Like the audacity.
It's always those.
But I just talked to my son and we're trying to, get him to a space to where, obviously he's 9, but just kind of having those conversations to say, either you make a choice, either you don't read the comments at all. Like it's a, no, I don't look at comments, period. Or it's developing thick skin to try to,
let's pause real quick. Your browser stopped recording. Hold on.
Is it mine?
Yours.
Okay, so you ready to play the 2-minute drill?
Let's do it.
All right. Y'all know about the 2-minute drill. It's this, that, or fill in the blank. So we're going to get started here. Legal briefs or brand pitches?
Ooh, legal briefs. Granted, there's more money on the brand pitches, but it can be cumbersome at times. Legal briefs is straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. Which would you choose as your courtroom superpower? X-ray vision or mind reading?
Mind reading. I definitely choose mind reading. I'm already try to read people's mind in the first place. Go on ahead and bless me with it, Lord.
Amen to that. All right. What's one chore that you would love to give up?
Laundry. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Every mama.
It is never caught up. Ever, ever, ever. That's why I said I was going to have 2 kids, but I ended up with 3. And Lord knows, I didn't need the extra laundry, Lord.
Okay, if you can instantly become an expert in any subject, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say something with making money. I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know. Something about making money, but I don't know if it's going to be the stock market or I need something with guaranteed money, though. I have to think forward on that.
Okay.
What is your favorite go-to comfort meal?
So my favorite food is French fries. Like literally, I have been across the world and French fries is forever going to be my favorite food. So if I'm like I just need comfort, it's definitely going to be French fries.
It's going to be some kind of fries. Yeah. What's your favorite show to watch?
I'm going to sadly admit that I don't watch a lot of TV, but whenever I do like get into bed and I just want to watch TV till I fall asleep, I go back to old school. King of Queens is my favorite show. I can watch it over and over and over. It's a comedy. It's a sitcom comedy from the early 2000s. I can't even, is it Kevin James? I think is the actor. And
he's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
King of Queens.
It doesn't get his justice.
You do it to you. You do.
Okay, so now I got to look it up.
Yeah,
and see if I remember one of them.
What's a better go-to moneymaker? IG or TikTok? TikTok.
Instagram. They are spending. Instagram has the almost 50% of NIL deals are happening through Instagram, and then just brands favor Instagram in general right now. I think it's because you get a variety of content types, the aesthetic, and things like that. So Instagram definitely.
Okay, would you prefer to vacay with friends or vacay alone?
Ooh, friends. I have never done a solo vacation. I've traveled by myself, but I've never done a solo vacation all the way. Mm-hmm. But I'm still going to go off by myself. I'm sorry. I'm an introvert, so there's going to be a moment where I'm like, all right, y'all, I'm going to go lay down. Y'all can go ahead.
Need a minute. Tell us your pet peeve.
I have a few of them. One that's really driving me crazy right now that my kids know about. This is going to sound so silly and maybe everybody doesn't do it. So, like when you're turning left at a red light, so the light is green, yellow, red, and it's just the 2 sides. And you can go out in the lane a little bit while it's yellow or green so that you're ready to turn after it turns red or right before. It drives me crazy when people just sit back. And so then the light turns red and nobody moved.
And nobody moved.
It makes me so mad.
Listen, the Black Danica concurs. I cannot stand people that don't know how to drive.
Oh my gosh,
my son. Ask my kids. I feel bad.
What's your favorite sports team?
I'm gonna go with the Buckeyes, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay.
Womp womp. No, I'm kidding.
All right, last question. What is next for Lachana?
So I am putting together this course that is launching in January, and we're going to be walking parents through from step 1, how to take on that management role to truly understand NIL, truly understand what it means to manage, understanding contracts and legal things of that. And I am hoping to build that out more and more to truly make a impact, or as I say, disrupt the industry. I believe I've been called to do that. Everything about me has been a person who loves to share knowledge. If I learn something and you want to know about it, I am an open well or a fountain of information, and I thrive on people being educated by the things that I've learned. So that's my goal. I said that I am eventually going to be the Uber of sports agencies, and we won't get into all of that, but we're
speaking into existence. We know you spoke a lot of things into existence.
Manifesting, okay?
Right?
Yeah, when God gives me a vision, I stand on it 10 toes. My friends say standing on kingdom business. That's
I know that's right. I know that's right. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and stuff.
Thank you.
I came across your content on social media too, and I was like, oh yes, like she got the sauce and the knowledge. So
if people want to get a hold of you, where do they find you?
So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and now Threads, which is the Twitter of Instagram. At Lachauna Edwards, LaChaunaEdwards.
And I will be sure to put links in our show notes to all of your contact information.
Thank
and we
you.
look forward to your school and your course and all the amazing things you're doing, especially in this NIL space.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. That is our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us at Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
You can also listen online and share your favorite episodes at our website, which is insidelinespodcast.com. And if y'all don't know by now, we have a YouTube channel. That's right. Follow us at Inside Lines Podcast and make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get all the notifications when the new episode comes out.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.